بعد بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Alhamdulillah ta'ala, we have got mashallah huge progress. Oh, which page are you seeing? Sorry. Yes. Since last time, I think last week we went through the rulings of the Lam and the Shamsi and the Qamari, and then also we discussed the rulings of the Mim Sakina, and we discussed that we briefly touched on the rules of the Noon Sakina and the Tanween. So today inshallah we will double click on the Noon Sakina and Tanween part. So before that I wanted actually us to all review the articulation points. It has a very important role to play with understanding the rules of the Noon Sakina and Tanween. So if you remember, we discussed that there are 5 main categories for the articulation points. However, we have a total of 17 articulation points as per the school of thought of Al-Khalil bin Ahmad al-Farahidi, which is followed by Al-Imam al-Jazari, which is the main source of information for the illustrated Tajweed book. These 17 articulation points, if you look at the screen, so we have 2 letters who have a nasal or the nose articulation point, which is the Noon and the Mim, mainly the completing part of the Noon and the Mim, which is coming from the nose. Now if you talk about the mouth or the whole vocal cavity, let's call it, then we have 3 letters coming from that area. That's the Alif, the Waw and the Ya, the elongated versions of the 3 of them. Then we said there are 6 letters which come from the throat, different levels of the throat, and we said there are the Ba, the Mim and the Fa, and the non-voweled, the voweled Waw. These ones are coming from the lips, and everything else is coming from the tongue, from different areas of the tongue. Now what you will notice is Harfun Noon. Harfun Noon is pronounced from the tongue area. Noon is by touching the tongue. The tip of the tongue is touching the area just behind the upper teeth. Of course, that's the completed part of the Noon, and the completing part of the Noon is coming from the nose. Now that introduction is quite important, because as I said, once we start reading more about how the letter Noon interacts with the other letters, you will understand why things are happening this way. Now I want to explain one thing before that. Sorry, just keep jumping between the pages. I want to explain the definition of the Tanween, right? So many people don't necessarily understand what's the meaning of the word Tanween. So the word Tanween is actually, it's driven from the name of the letter Noon, Harfun Noon. When we add an un to the end of the word, we say we're making Tanween for it. So we're adding a Noon to it. And it's not something unique to Arabic language. Many languages have that. If you talk about even in English, when they add shin, or other languages they add sion or something like that, they add something to the end of the word to change the meaning of the word, to make more emphasis on the meaning of it. So that's where the Tanween is coming. Now the Tanween is one of the things which is only pronounced if you are connecting the word with the next word, and it also only happens in the end of the word. Now these are important because once we understand that, we know that now if we are pronouncing Tanween, which is normally in the end of the word, then we normally end up with another letter on the word after that. And because of that, we are treating the Tanween, because it's technically a Noon in the end of a word, a Noon Sakina on the end of a word, with the first letter of the word that comes afterwards. So that's why when people say the rulings of Noon Sakina and Tanween, because they are the same. They are both an ending of a word with a Noon Sakina or with a non-voweled Noon, that is connected to a first letter on the next word. So now what we're gonna do is, let's move to the next page inshallah. We're gonna do a quick recap of the rulings of the Nun Sakin and Tanween. The first ruling is what we call al-Idhar. Al-Idhar means making it clear, making it obvious, making it apparent, right? This happens with 6 letters: the Hamza, the Ha, the Ain, the Ha, the Ghain, and the Kha. If I go back to the chart here, these are the letters, the throat letters. You see the throat letters are pronounced from an area, this blue area, which is way far away from the green area, which is where the Noon is. Because of that, we're making Idhar. Idhar means the 2 letters are not interacting with each other. So if you say Man amana, min man huwa, min man ala, min ha, min gha, min kha, so on and so forth. All of these letters, the Noon and these other letters, are not even close to each other. There's nothing that's happening between them. There's no chemistry with these letters. And we'll get to it inshallah on the next slide. But this is just a quick, like very high level overview. For the letters Ya, Waw, Mim, Noon, Lam, Ra, or they are summarized in the word Yarmulun, what happens is Idgham. And we learned from the previous section and the one previous to that is Idgham between 2 letters happens naturally because the letters are very close to each other. So let's look at it here. Ya is pronounced from the middle area of the tongue. Ra and the Lam are very close to the point that some scholars assume the Lam and the Ra and the Noon are from the same articulation point. Mim is from the lips. Yar, Mul, and then Waw is from the lips, and the Noon with itself is also from here. So you see all of these letters, because of they are very close to each other, then we do Idgham. We do Idgham, which means merging. The 2 letters becomes one. Different levels of merging, we will discuss that later, but it's all merging. The Ba, however, is a special. It's very close also because it's the same articulation point of the Ba, but the difference between the Ba and the Mim is that the Mim has some nasal part of it, and that's why the merging is happening. With the Ba, there is nothing nasal happening. And the mouth is blocked. So something has to happen before that, which is what we call qalb or iqlab. The qalb is more eloquent linguistically, so that's the word we are using. What happens is the Nun Sakina or Tanween is flipped to a Mim. And then the Mim, because it has a common articulation point with the Ba, which is the lips, then it becomes a Ikhfa Shafwi. It becomes Ikhfa Shafwi, which is what we discussed with the Mim. So that is a special case for the Ba, and that's the reason for it. And it's also natural. If you talk about even English language, if you find 2 English words, one of them ends with a letter N, the other word starts with the letter B, you will see that naturally people change the N into M and then mix it with the B, like in between. You don't say in between. You know, when you pronounce it in English, you say in between. So you already did what we do in Arabic language. You change the N into M, and then you mix the M with the B. That's how we did it. The other group of letters, which is all of the rest ones of them, we do what we call ikhfa. Ikhfa is a special thing that happens only with the letter Noon. With the letter Noon. We don't have, we have the ikhfa shafwi with the Mim, a special one, but we're talking about the ikhfa haqiqi, or the true ikhfa is only with the letter Noon, and we'll discuss that inshallah in the slides. So that's the summary of the rules of the Noon and the Tanween. Now before I dig into the details, is that structure fairly clear and understandable? Does anyone have any issues with it or any questions so we can clarify them? That's good news. That's amazing news. So let's go into the details. The first one is we need to discuss the special cases. The first special cases is when the noon has a shadda. It's very similar to the meme, which has a shadda. In that case, we have to make the long ghunna for it. We call this ghunna akmal ma takun. The most perfect type of ghunna happens when you have the noon with shadda or the meme with shadda. And that's the highest level of ghunna. We will discuss that inshallah if we get time today. The second type of noon, which is the one which has a fatha or a dhamma or a kasra. This one has a natural ghunna to it, but that natural ghunna is very light. There's nothing long to it. And then we have the other group of noon, which has the sukoon, which has a sakin jazm on it, the sukoon. In this one, we'll have to discuss the rules for it. Before the rules, you have to discuss the definition. The definition is, it says, it's the noon which is the noon which has no haraka. Right? So when we say that, we immediately eliminated the any noon which has a haraka on it. So this one, the noon which has no haraka. That's the first elimination. Then we said وَالثَّابِتَةُ فِي الْوَصْلِ وَالْوَقْفِ, which is also it's a noon sakina, where if you stop or if you continue, in both cases. وَفِي اللَّفْظِ وَفِي الْخَطِ, it's also pronounced, it's also written, and it also becomes unnecessary or natural as long as it's part of the structure of the word. It could be also in the middle of the word, or it could be on the edge of the word. Now you will understand why all of these definitions shortly, inshallah. The tanween, we also discussed it. We said it's an unnecessary noon that's added just for emphasis, and it's normally added to the end of nouns, and it's pronounced but it's not written. So nobody say un or sirajan. They don't put noon, but they put instead two fatha. The two fatha is the indicator that there's a tanween here, or two dhamma or two kasra. So double the haraka. So the difference between the noon sakin and tanween is that the noon sakina only happens in the middle of the word, or if it's in the end, while the tanween is only in the end of the word. The noon sakina happens to be in nouns, verbs, and letters, while the tanween is only on nouns. The noon sakina, it's thabita fil wasl wal waqf. So if you pronounce it, it's man yakhsha or man yakhsha. In both cases, if you continue or if you stop, it's a noon sakina. While the tanween is only pronounced when you are connecting the words. And also, it's thabitatun fil khatt wal lafz. So in both writing and pronunciation, while the tanween is only pronounced, it's not written. And the last part of the noon sakina is that it's original, or it could be additional, depending on the structure of the word. While in the tanween, it's always additional, it's always unnecessary, and it's just added to the natural word. So the rules of, yes, brother Muhammad.
Yeah, I just wanted to inform you that Asrar sent a message that you're host now. So.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. Barakallah. So we discussed that al-idhar حروفه الستة. There are 6 letters for idhar. همز فهاء ثم عين حاء مهملتان ثم غين خاء. For those of you who studied the تحفة الأطفال, these 6 letters are agreed upon, although some of the scholars, like if you read the qira'ah of Abu Ja'far, for example, he reads the ghain and the kha with the ikhfa, right? So he will say min ghayr min khayr. He does it this way. However, the qira'ah of Imam Hafs from the way of Shatibiya, we read all of these with idhar. Min ghayr min khayr. Right? The other 6 letters of idgham, which is summarized in the word yarmulun. Yarmulun is divided into 2 categories. The first one is the letters yanmu, ya, noon, mim, and waw. In these letters, we do the idgham with ghunna, means there is a nasal addition to the idgham. While the idgham with the lam and the ra is not nasal, because that follows the idgham of the idgham that we discussed before, the different letters meeting in a different location. It's idgham al-mutaqaribain, the lam and the ra. Because of that, you say mallahu min rabbihi. We'll discuss that inshallah on the next slide. And then we said the qalb is ba, and all of the other letters are ikhfa. So let's look at the idhar. We say the idhar, it's basically clarification or making things clear, but in the Quranic context, it's basically making sure each and every letter is pronounced from its articulation point without any additional ghunna. And these are the letters for it. We call it idhar halqi, because it's all of the 6 letters that is pronounced with are coming from the halq, right? So we say all of this. Sometimes we say the idhar, we call it idhar halqi. The reason for it, as we discussed before, the articulation point of the noon, sakin, and tanween are very far from the articulation of these articulation points of these letters. And the way we pronounce it is by pronouncing the noon, sakin, and tanween very clearly, without any ghunna, without any disconnection or stopping, while giving it some medium time between the shidda and rakhawa, between the heaviness and the looseness, between the shidda means strength and rakhawa means looseness. Why is that? Because the letter noon is part of the in-between letters, right? Lin Umar. So when you say an'amta, you make the idhar with a noon and give it time. You don't say an'amta. No, you have to give it a little bit extra time in between from a strong letter and a in-between letter. So these are some examples, whether it was in one word or in 2 words, and also in the tanween, but in tanween it's always in 2 words, because the tanween only comes in the end of the first one. وَيَنْأَوْنَ وَيَنْهَوْنَ أَنْعَمْتَ وَتَنْحِتُونَ فَسَيُنْغِضُونَ وَالْمُنْخَنِقَةُ مَنْ أَعْطَى مَنْ هَاجَرَ إِنْ عَلَيْكَ وَمَنْ حَوْلَهُ من غير من خوفي. And in the tanween, وجنات ألفافا لكل قوم هاد حكيم عليم قرضا حسنا لعفو غفور عليم خبير, so on and so forth. The sign in the Mus'haf, if you talk about the noon sakina, the sign of the Mus'haf is a sukoon sign. There's a sukoon sign on the letter noon. Of course, that is when we're talking about the Uthmanic Mus'haf. There is a sukoon sign. The sukoon sign means idhar. For the tanween, you will see that the 2 fatha or 2 dhamma or 2 kasra, for the 2 fatha and 2 kasra, they are side by side. None of them is superseding the other one, as in the slide. And in tanween al-dhamm, in the double dhamma, you put a dhamma or small waw, and you have a small noon inverted sitting on top of it. That's the un. When it's written like that, that means you make idhar. You don't do anything else. You just say غفور حليم وجنات ألفافا عبدا إذا, and so on and so forth. So that's the idhar. Any questions on idhar? Straightforward, right? Easy. Okay, let's do the idgham. The idgham, we said we have two groups, right? We said the first one is with the ghunna, as in the letters yanmu, ya, noon, mim, waw. And then we have the idgham without ghunna, which is lam and ra. Now, we have to also differentiate in these four letters. Two of them are different from the other two, even in the way they are written in the Mus'haf. So let's discuss it here. It says that there are two types of idgham, similar to what we discussed, if you remember, with the ta and the ta, right? When we say, if you say bayyat ta, becomes bayyat ta. So the ta with the ta becomes merged with a full ta. But if the ta came before the ta, as in the word ahattu, it becomes what we called at that time idgham naqas, incomplete idgham. Because the ta is a heavier letter, so some of the characteristics of the harf ta got carried over, which is the itbaq, the closure. So that's why the way we pronounce it, we said we enter with harf ta and then leave with harf ta. Ahattu, basat. Now, similar to that, there are two letters in here, which is got idgham naqas, incomplete idgham, which is the waw and the ya. The mim and the noon are complete idgham. The lam and the ra are complete idgham. Now, I will put a question for the group, anyone who is interested to answer, to tell me why, with the waw and the ya, we're considering that idgham as incomplete idgham. And anyone? I'm pretty sure half of you will know, but the first one who presses the button. Anyone, brothers? No one?
Because we are still saying the ya and wa, because it's my ya, well, but in meme it's the this is
That's a good answer.
sadda.
That's a good answer. So what's happening is the other way, because the full idgham means you have to say actually a full ya and a full waw, right? So if I do complete idgham with the waw and the ya, if I get an example, the word may yakhsha, right? If I do full idgham, it becomes may yakhsha, may yakhsha. What I'm doing here is a full ya from the mouth. So if I close my nose, it becomes may yakhsha. So nothing coming from the nose. That is called complete idgham on the ya. Same thing with the waw. If I say miwal, miwal, the nose has nothing to do with it, which is wrong. So both of these two pronunciations are wrong for the qira'ah of Imam Hafs and Asim. In other qira'at maybe, but in the qira'ah of Imam Hafs and Asim, the waw and the ya has to be with the ghunnah. They have to have a nasal part. So 50% of the sound will come from the nose, 50% of the sound will come from the waw or the ya. Because of that, because the nasal characteristic of harf nun is carried over into the idgham, we're calling it complete idgham. Because the first letter, which is the nun, didn't get completely merged into the next letter. That's why we call it incomplete. So the way we pronounce it, we say miwal, miwal, man yakhsha, man yakhsha. There's a 50% coming from the nose. Because of that, we're saying it's not complete idgham. The noon is not completely got merged into the waw and the ya. 50% of it, which is the mouth part, got mixed up. The other 50%, which is the nose part, is still intact. Is that a good explanation, brothers? Anyone concerns on it? Yeah, mashallah, beautiful. So with the big one, with the mim and the noon, it's a complete idgham because they are both have the the same nasal part. So the nasal part of the noon, which is getting part of it as well. So when we say لن ندخلها, we call this complete idgham, although the nasal part of the noon is coming, but we counted the nasal part of the next noon. Same thing with the meme. When we say mim masad, we said that's not the nasal part of the harful noon which got merged. That's the nasal part of harful mim. That's why it's a complete idgham, because the mim is the dominant letter. The noon has completely disappeared when we did that. And the lam and the ra is very similar. Lam and the ra is very similar. So that's why if you see the signs of writing it in the mushaf, as in let me highlight those. You see here, mim masad. You see that? The noon has no harakah, the mim has shadda. That's the same sign as the complete idgham. Same thing here. يَكُلَّهُ. يَكُلَّهُ. If you come to the tanween, you see the tanween now, the two fatha are not parallel. They are superseding each other's, which is an indicator of something happening. What is that something happening? It's idgham. Why idgham? Because we have the shadda on the next letter. If there is no shadda on the next letter, then we're talking about ikhfa, concealment. But this shadda here is complementing the ruling. Tanween like this, shadda, idgham. What type of idgham? Complete idgham. Same thing here. Tanween here, superseding. Then you have shadda on the next letter. That's it. Same thing with the tanween al-dham. Tanween al-dham, in the case of ikhfa and idgham, it will be two waws. Two waws. The two waw is a sign that something is happening here, either ikhfa or idgham, naqas or kamil. Perfect idgham, complete idgham, or incomplete idgham, or concealment. All of these cases will have the tanween like that. The shadda on the next letter is an indicator of complete idgham. In the incomplete idgham, you'll see this. You'll see the first letter has no harakah, which is very similar to above, but the waw has no harakah on it. Has no shadda on it. Same thing with the ya, same thing with the tanween on all of its type. That's the sign of the incomplete idgham. And that's the beauty of using the Uthmani Mus'haf, because all of these are already written for you, so you don't have to stress too much about understanding the rules or anything. Just looking at it will give you enough information. Now we have two notes on the idgham. The first one is we don't do any idgham of nun sakina if it comes in the middle of a word, and that is unique to only 4 words in the whole Quran. These 4 words are the words qinwan, sinwan, ad-dunya, bunyan. Right? And the reason for that is if you change it, if you make idgham, if you take the word, for example, bunyan, bunyan means construction or a structure that is built, a building, bunyan. Right? From the root bana yabni, bunyan. If you do idgham here, instead of pronouncing it bunyan, it becomes buyyan. Buyyan, right? Buyyan, although it's not necessarily a meaningful word, but it could be confused with a word that it comes from clarity, right? Buyyan, a plural of people who are making things clear. Buyyan, or something like that. So Siwan, for example, the same thing. From Sana Yasunu, it becomes a different word than Sinwan, or Qiwan, or Aduyya. Right? Nobody say Aduyya. Right? So this thing, which is unique to idgham, because when we talk about ikhfa, inshallah, you will see that the concealment happens in the middle of the word. But the idgham is unique on only outside the word, ending of the word with the word after it. The second comment is unique to the beginnings of 2 surahs and 1 special case which is in Surah, which is the sentence وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقٍ وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقٍ. The first one is in the beginning of Surah Yasin. We have the separated letters, Ya, Sin. Sin, if you pronounce the letter Sin, it ends with a Nun. And the next verse starts with the harf Waw. So technically you're saying Yasin wal Quran al Hakim. If you connect those, it becomes, if you do the rulings of Nun, Sakin and Tanween, it becomes Yasin wal Quran al Hakim. Right? Although that's allowed in other qira'at, in the qira'ah of Imam Hafs and Asim from the way of Shatibiyyah, the only way you're allowed to say that is by saying Yasin wal Quran al Hakim. Right? So you pronounce the whole letter, even if you're continuing. You pronounce the full letter with the full Nun and make idhar before the Waw. The other one is also in the separated letters in the case of Surah Al-Qalam in the beginning. Similar example. Noon wal-qalami wa ma yasturun. If you do the connection with the ruling of Nun, Sakin and Tanween, it has to be read like this. Noon wal-qalami wa ma yasturun. So you move from the Noon, then the Noon of the Noon becomes mudghama. You mix it with the Waw, but the Waw will have a nasal part. So it becomes Noon wal-qalami wa ma yasturun. You move from a Waw to another Waw which has Ghunna. In the Qira'ah of Imam Hafs, he doesn't do that. So if you connect those, it becomes Noon wal-qalami wa ma yasturun. Again, when I'm saying Qira'ah of Imam Hafs, from the way of Shatibiyyah, the way that we are studying for the course. So keep it simple for yourself in the beginnings of these surahs. The best thing to do is to stop, but if you can't stop and you want to continue, then make it clear. And the third special case is in the sentence وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقٍ. This one we have a special rule here, we call it sect. Sect means what? Means pause. You pause on the Noon. Without taking breath, and then you continue. Because of that pause, you have to make the letter idhar. You can't say وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقٍ because you are asked to do a pause here. وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقٍ like this. Any question on this one, brothers?
So, brother, there's a scene on the man. Is it like sakna?
Sakta. Sakta. That's coming from the root sakata. Yaskutu. Sakta.
Okay, jazakallah khair.
So there's a question on the chat from Brother Bayu. Let's see if I have an answer for it. What's the question? Saying, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Sorry, this one is. I think for the words dunya, bunyan, sinwan, wa qinwan, does Dr. Ayman mention about idhar, mutalaqi, or something, or just make exception? These words do not do idgham. No, just an exception. So these are mentioned in multiple poems as well. So Imam al-Jamzuri say, إلا إذا كان بكلمة فلا تدغم كدنيا ثم صنوان تلا. He's saying the noon with the idgham letter, if they happen in the same word, don't do idgham. Yeah. إظهار المتلاقي. Maybe I'll check what that means. I don't know. But yeah, maybe it has something else. Inshallah. Okay. I think that's good progress for today. Maybe we'll have 5 minutes for qalb. So qalb is flipping something from its nature. And we said what we're doing here is when the noon comes in the end of a word, or even in the middle of the word, and then there is a ba after it, then we are flipping that noon into a meme, and then the meme is getting ikhfa shafwi with the ba. It's getting concealed with the ba. So the examples we have, if it's in the same word, فأنبتنا فأنبتنا لينبذن الأنباء أنبئوني. You see the sign of it in that case is there's a meme on the noon. That's the sign of the qalb. If it's in two words, it becomes mim ba'd, mim baqaliha, mim ba'd, mim baytik. And in the tanween case, sami'an basira, utullim ba'd, nafsim bima, sami'un basir. The sign here for the tanween is slightly more special. So we're not just adding the meme, we're removing one of the fatha or a dhamma or a kasra. And then if it's a kasra case, then we're putting it below. So you see utullim, the meme with the kasra is below the lam. That's an indicator of a tanween, qalb, and a kasr. All of them together. Same thing with nafsim bima. Sami'un basir, sami'an basira. In both cases, you see the fatha with the meme next to it. That's the sign of it in the mushaf. Now, because this applies the rule of the ikhfa, the concealment of the meme, then the same rule apply which we discussed last time. You have to make sure that you close your lips when you're saying that meme. You can't keep an opening. I think I'll do the summary before the ikhfa, and we'll keep the ikhfa inshallah for next week. So this is the summary. We have look at look for the noon sakin and tanween. Feel free to take a snapshot of this one. It's a very helpful diagram. So look for noon sakin and tanween. Look at the letter after noon sakin and tanween. If the letter was hamza, ha, aynun, ha, ghaynun, kha, then you do idhar, which means you recite clearly. If you see ya'un, wawun, mimun, noon, you do idgham with the gunna, merge to join, making sure that with the case of the ya and the waw, you don't do a full idgham. You have to do incomplete idgham, which means you have to do the gunna with the waw and the ya. In the case of the lam and the ra, it is an idgham without gunna, complete idgham. And in the case of ba, you're changing it to a meme, and then the meme will follow, that you do ikhfa for the meme, ikhfa shafwi. And the rest of the letters, we do the concealment, the ikhfa, which will be inshallah the next week's subject. Now we can open for questions before the quiz. So if anyone has anything, this is the right time, inshallah. Good, alhamdulillah. I think that's good progress. So I'll stop the presentation.